Hello and welcome to this episode of the Corporate Escapists TV show and podcast. I'm your host, Christine Innes, and I'm super excited to have the very amazing Morgan joining me today. So welcome and thank you so much for being here.
Thanks so much for having me on. I'm glad we could make this happen.
Yeah, I'm so excited because obviously I've sort of got to know you a little bit over the last couple of months. You were in our June issue of the Corporate Escapists magazine. So here you
There he
are.
is.
And I was really like, I love your story so much because I think when we go through adversity, we have two options. So first of all, we can either stay in that place, and I call it have a pity party, or we can decide to have some sort of action and we can learn from it. And I think what you've been able to do, and we'll dive more into your story a little bit more, but I think what you've been able to do to be able to turn around, but also now to help other people is truly amazing. So congratulations on that.
Thank you so much. Yeah, I totally agree. It's like, I think, like everyone has a story and it means nothing except for the meaning that we give to it. And knowing that, when it's not in our awareness, when everyone's just doing the best they can with all the information they have at the time, like if something happens to you when you're 7 years old, you use your 7-year-old mind to make something of it. But the great thing about it is, now with technology and more information about neuroscience and the brain and everything like this, and we can gain control of every single thing that's ever happened in our life and recreate it and make new meaning and literally design our life starting now to make it whatever we want it to look like. So it's awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. Totally agree. So before I dive in any more deeper, do you want to tell the world and our beautiful audience all about yourself? And then we'll dive into some deep questions.
Yeah, cool. Okay. Well, a little bit about me. I know we don't have too much time here, so I'll keep it super short, but I'm 28 years old now. 28 years old. I was 10 years ago. I was an apprentice carpenter because I had no idea what else I wanted to do. I was told that, if you want to be successful in life, you need to go get a job and you need to work hard. And so that's what I was doing. So I was working 10, 11, 12 hours a day, in 35 to 40 degree heat, thinking that this is, I need to put in these hard yards because one day I'm going to be successful. And, it took me a couple of years to realize that nothing was changing, and even the people I was looking ahead of me, it's like my bosses or the developers or whatever, it's like they weren't really living a very good life either. And that's just all I had ahead of me. So I was keeping my eyes open. I was keeping my awareness open for different ways to make an extra income because I knew that's what I had to do. And in this time, I was just really caught up with a bad internal dialogue. Like my environment was really bad. But, like I said, I was doing the best I could with all the information I had, which everybody is doing. And, I was going down paths of just drugs all the time, alcohol every single day. I was fighting a lot. I was getting put in the watch house often, like always just getting in trouble with the law. Like still to this day, Canada haven't let me in still, right? So there's things that I just went down that path because that's all I knew, that's what the people I was hanging around, that was normal for me. And when I was 21, I started to actually question what was normal and can I redefine my normal? And, I was introduced to, well, actually one of my old friends popped out of nowhere and he's like, hey, I'm doing this thing online. You should check it out. Make some extra money, blah, blah, blah. And the key thing here was he was living a life that I wanted. He was happy. He was successful. He was doing things. And I looked at his life. I was like, far out, I want that. And I look at my life and all the people around me, and I was like, I don't want that. So whether or not because what happens is when we, I call it moving tables, like everyone's sitting at a table right now. And eventually we would become aware that, oh my God, there's another table over there. Those guys are eating different food, talking about different things. I wonder what's happening over there. And eventually when we get curious about something better, we need to get up from this table and take a leap and go to the other one. It's always going to be scary. It's going to be scary. And it's also going to question what you believe is normal because you just came from this table where, they're eating this, they're talking about this. And then you go over here and perhaps you're not going to agree with it. So that's what happened to me. And my friend, he's like, he introduced me to network marketing. I had no idea what it was, but I thought it was the cult. I thought it was a scam and all of this shit. And what I realized was I had big opinions, but a very little bank account. And I was like, well, you're doing something that I don't know because you've got a life that I don't know how to live yet. So I checked it out and I started building this thing as a side hustle. started helping people, learn self-development as I was learning, get better health, create a side income themselves. And I was building this thing alongside as a carpenter still. And then when I was 23 years old, I was making enough money to be financially free. And I did what any 23-year-old do with that kind of lifestyle. I booked a one-way ticket to Mexico because that's what I wanted. I just wanted margaritas and tacos every single day. I didn't want to have to wait for a Tuesday for the excuse to have tacos, right?
Yeah.
And that's what I want to create, because I took a step back to go, well, what's my normal? So often we get conditioned by society to tell us what's normal for you. And unfortunately, society tells us, go to school, get good grades, go to university, get more good grades, work you out the corporate ladder, trade your life away for doing something that you're not passionate about, trade your dreams, your goals, your talents, trade all of them away to fit into the system. So one day you can retire, if you even get to 65 years old, because 34 out of 100 people don't even live to 65 years old.
Yeah.
And it's like we get conditioned to trade everything we really want, what we've been born with, for like this paycheck. So if you're willing enough to sort of redefine what your normal is, you can really have whatever you want. And that's what I did. And at 23 years old now, what I think is normal is people living their dream life and tapping their full potential. And I think it's not normal for people to be slaving away at a job doing something they don't love. It's like, I think that's strange. So
yeah.
that's a bit of my story. And then, the last 4 years, because I'm 28 now. So the last 4 years, I just spent my time traveling around the world, living in Mexico, Bali, the US, speaking on stages all around the world of crowds up to 6,000 people, teaching people my 4 pillars of creating a dream life, which is now birthed into my whole company, which is Dream Out Loud, and podcasts and events and everything like that. And now where my passion lays is helping people really go from where they are, redefine their normal, redefine their life, figure out what it is they actually want, and then give them the bridge to achieve that.
Yeah. And what I love is that you discovered that so early. Like, it literally took me to just about to turn 40 for me to realize all of that. So, I spent 20 odd years working in the corporate world, climbing that corporate ladder, but it took me getting severely ill, leaving a bad marriage, having to file for bankruptcy for me to even realize all of that. So I think now that the culture is starting to change and people are learning this so much more earlier on, to go, hang on a second, just because you're saying this doesn't necessarily mean that I have to follow that pathway.
Yes.
And I really do believe that it's people like you that are now sharing this to actually now start spreading that light out for people to go, you know what? It's okay for you to ask questions. It's okay for you to want something different than what society thinks, because what my parents thought was the norm to even now what I'm teaching my children, and now even like I've got a grandson, like what I'm going to be able to teach him, it's so much more going, it's okay for you to want something different and to follow that pathway that is off the beaten path that nobody else has gone down before, but follow what you want to do. So that's what I like. As I said, I can't say it enough. I think that it's so important with what you're doing right now to shed the message. And obviously you're able to do that. And like you said, technology is like so much more advanced. Like, I didn't even have a mobile phone when I was in high school. So,
and then with social media, like that's the great thing, like we can, so if you're listening to something like this podcast, or you see someone's Instagram, it's like, it goes such a long way to actually share it and create that impact, because we can all literally have a little impact together. Because like you said, so here's what an actual psychology says, is that before the age of 25, we're actually a lot more likely to create change and question things on our own will. Like, we can be shown, so somebody under the age of 25 can be shown hope, they can be shown a dream, they can be shown something better and go, I can make sense of that. That's, cool. How about we do that? After the age of 25, humans to create massive change in their life. So the good news is it can still happen. The bad news is, like what happened to you, what has to happen is some sort of traumatic event.
Yeah.
Losing illness, losing a loved one, bankruptcy, something massive, like a punch in the face, has to go wake up and force us to question something else. So, if you're if you're over 25 and it's like, well, far out, I don't want to wait for this thing. The great thing about this as well is that you can just make the decision now. by making the decision, the first step is actually choosing to surround yourself with different, a different table, listening to podcasts like this, coming to seminars, events like these events have changed my life because the information you get to consume on a subconscious level, because it's not about learning consciously. Like we can listen to a podcast like this and you learn consciously. It's like, wow, that makes sense. That's cool. Yeah. But then in 5 hours from now, you've forgotten about 80% of it and it's not actually part of you. But when you go to a full immersion and you're in an event and you're in there for like 5 hours, 8 hours, or 3 days, like I do 3-day events, and you come out a completely different person on a subconscious level, a new identity, new belief structures, new value systems, and this is where you really kind of create change. So the great news is if people are after 25, you don't have to wait for a traumatic event. However, that will force you to look for different ways to be like, how can I create the life I want? Or you can make the decision right now. And actually, if you imagine yourself 5 years from now and perhaps going through bankruptcy or losing a loved one or getting really ill, you can probably imagine that, right? And you can probably imagine being like, well, fire out like that. That is what's going to happen if I don't make any changes now. So you can actually visualize what would happen if nothing changed.
Yeah.
And you can bring that into the moment and bring enough pain to the moment right now and be like, I must change now. And the first step is looking for like, well, how can I get around people and consume content of people that are living the life and talking about the things that I want to talk about, live and breathe.
Yeah. And I think the key thing that, and I'm pretty sure that you'll be able to relate, is that when I wake up, I'm actually excited to start the day. Whereas I remember back in the corporate days, I'll be like, oh, I got to get up. And I was literally just sort of, I call it sleepwalking through life. I was literally just following the process. Whereas every day now is different. And I'm like, I'm so excited. Like, who am I going to meet today? Who am I going to talk to? You're like, nothing is structured like, I mean, there is structure, but it is different and it's exciting. And I never thought life could actually be like that.
Yeah, it's like, yeah, I totally can relate. It's like, um, it just is like who you surround yourself with. It's just that redefining what you think is normal, because, when you are in corporate and the other thing is like, who are you taking advice from? Like that's a huge thing. Like I said, when I was 21, I was listening to all the wrong people. They weren't getting me where I wanted to be. Doesn't take a rocket science to figure out, hey, I'm kind of sick of getting arrested nearly every weekend. I'm kind of sick of feeling like shit all the time. I'm kind of sick of being broke. I'm kind of sick of having no choices in my life. I'm kind of sick of telling people that I love that I have to tell them no. It doesn't take a rocket science to figure out that, hey, what I'm doing right now isn't working.
Yeah.
Now, who can I start to take different advice from? And that's the key thing. So if we're still in corporate and we're talking to other people at work about, hey, do you think this could be any different? They're going to think you're nuts, because their normal is, no, of course. What are you talking about? You work till 70. You get your superannuation. What are you talking about? Hey, somebody put this guy in a mental asylum. He's lost his mind. But if you talk to somebody like yourself or me, I'm going to be like, why are you still in the job?
That's right.
Like, what are you doing? Like, what are you passionate about? What are your talents? And every single person has a talent. And I had this conversation with Les Brown when he came on my podcast. I said to him, Les, do you think everybody's got the potential to actually live their dream life? And he says, that's why we're here. He goes, every single person has a skill or has a talent or have some sort of passion inside of them that was given to them to bring to life. Now, unfortunately, only a small percentage of the people actually actuate on that. But the thing is, like, we've all got this weird skill or talent or passion inside that was given to us to bring to life, and it's completely up to us to make that happen. But when we're surrounded by people that are crushing our dreams, that are talking negatively to us, that aren't supporting us, that are trying to say things to us like, what I hate is when people say, why don't you just have a day off, Morgan? You work so much, or like, oh yeah, you need to slow down, or why don't you go? You know what I mean? It's like, that's mediocrity. It's not what I want. It's like, you get around people that are telling you to do more, be more, give more, and to actually jump into the thing that you want to do, and just challenging people to sort of redefine what they think is normal. But it's all going to start with the things we're telling ourselves internally, and the people who we're surrounding ourselves with. Like, we're either going to look at the people around us one day and say, because of you, I can't, they look at you and say, you can't do this, or you'll look at them and you say, because of you, I can.
Yes. Yeah, and that's so true. I love it that you said that everybody is born with a gift. And I always say to people, if you remember back as a child and either friends or family, generally it's your parents, whatever they told you that you were too much. So my mum always said that you talk too much, Christine. And I'm like going, well, you know what? Here's my gift. Now I have a TV show and a podcast and I get to talk to people on the stage.
That's it.
So, my gift, like when I was a child, was that I talked too much. So that was my natural gift. And I think that sometimes when you look at kids now, they go and explore and they've got that wild imagination. And we need to cultivate that so much more now so that we can then bring it to life, when they start, in school and start looking at careers and all of that and going, you know what? This is what you love doing as a kid. So why don't you go back to that? Because, I have a shirt that I wear some days. I'm like, I'm not adulting today. So it means do not ask me questions. I'm not making decisions. I'm literally just going to be free. And, my partner and, anyone around me goes, when Christine's wearing that shirt, you don't ask questions. Like, that's just it. And sometimes that's what we need to do. We need to go back to what we were like as kids and where we had no barriers, where we had no restrictions because we didn't know um, there was no possibilities as such.
Yeah. Like all behavior is learned behavior. And that right there, it's like you talk too much. So said to a kid would create the belief at a young age, be like, fuck, well, what's wrong with me
Yeah.
talking? I'm not good enough. Probably is where it would
Yeah.
stem.
Yeah.
Oh, my mom doesn't love me, or oh, I'm not good enough, or oh,
Yeah.
I can't do that, or like, oh, I'm not worthy. And that's where all
Yeah.
these things stem from. And then they compound. Next minute, somebody's 35 years old, struggling with the belief that they could start their own business because they're like, well, I don't know, because I'm not that good. It's like,
Yeah.
well, when did you create that belief? Oh, well, my mom told me when I was 5 years old,
Yeah.
to stop doing that.
Yeah.
But it's such an interesting thing. But I think that we should all, because like if you look at a kid, and I use this example, so when I run my events, I talk a lot about the comfort zone and often, so I've got an event this weekend actually on the Sunshine Coast, and somebody asked me, it's like, hey, I can't get a babysitter. I said, bring your kids. Like, are you
Mm.
sure? I said, yeah, because they're gonna make a great example for the rest of the adults in the room.
Mm.
Because at what age do we stop playing? At what age do we stop getting
Mm.
curious? At what age do we stop asking for
Mm.
what it is we wanted?
Yeah.
And at what age do
Yeah.
we start thinking that strangers
Yeah.
are bad? So one of the things I do is I get people to move seats and meet strangers in the room, and people are freaking out, and it's because they go, well, I've always been told don't talk to strangers,
Yes.
and you of all people would know, it's like the more you network, the more your net worth is going to be. The more people and it's just all about, like, some of the most amazing relationships I have in my life now are people who I've met in the last like couple years in
Yeah.
random ways, like airports, right? An event or something like this, or a guest on my podcast, and it's just because I got very curious about
Mm.
who they are and what they do. And but that's the thing, like all behavior is learned. So that the
Mm.
great thing about this is if there's someone listening to this and it's like, well, I'm doing things, I have fears or doubts or concerns or behaviors or habits
Mm.
that aren't really serving me. The fantastic news is you can completely change them with the right mentorship, and sort of like laser focus on it, completely change them because you've learned it along the way somewhere. Like there's only two fears we're actually ever born with. And that's the fear of falling and the fear of loud noises. Hence why you can pick up a baby and scream at it and it will cry. And you can also drop a baby and it'll cry. Like, trust me, I've done both. Right? But like everything else other than that has completely been learned.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's what's stopping people from going after what they want.
Yeah. Where to next for you?
I'm birthing what's called the Dream Out Loud method. So I'm really excited about this. So it's what I've been teaching for the last, 6-7 years, teaching people inside of
Mm.
my network marketing business, all about how to understand themselves. Like exactly that, like redefine their normal, redefine exactly who they are, where they're at, what are their passions, their purposes, what's
Yep.
their future, what's their vision, and helping them create their dream life. So like, because success is 80% mindset. So it's funny, some people will come into my training and they're like, yes, teach me all the secrets. Yes. But the funny thing is, like, you probably get to cry and you get to release a lot of shit as well.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the greatest thing, because it's not so much what we need to learn, it's more so what we need to unlearn.
Mm.
Because I'm a big believer that we've got every single thing we need inside of us already. It's just masked and covered up with a whole bunch of bullshit saying that we can't do this, or we've
Yep.
learned all these other ways as to why it can't happen. So what is next for me is the Dream Out Loud method. So I've created this 2.5 day transformational event where people walk in on day one and they're a completely different person on day three. They've got clarity on their life again. They've got they're in alignment with their passions, their purposes, and what's in alignment with their values. So often people are doing something and they wake up and like, I don't want to do this. That means you're not in alignment. Like what's important to you, what's most important to you in life is our values, whether we know about them consciously or not. So what I do is help people become aware of them consciously, what's true to them, changing them if we need them to be changed, to be in alignment with what it is they truly want. So they get to leave with 100% clarity, but they leave completely transformed on a subconscious level where everything happening inside of their brain, the limiting stories, limiting beliefs, the negativity, the past trauma, the past hate, anger, sadness, guilt, all these things that are holding people down, holding them back from really elevating to their success and attracting the things to them that they want, not what they don't want. We get to do that in the room and fully just just completely transform them and turn them into the person that they need to be. That's going to be in alignment to where they want to go in life.
I love it. I love it so much. I'm super excited to continue watching what you're doing. I know that we're going to be still working together. We're going to have you in the magazine again, which I'm so excited about, and to continue sharing. I'm going to drop all of the links of when you'll be able to reach out to Morgan below. So make sure you go ahead and do it. Make sure you go over and jump onto his podcast because he's got some amazing guests as well. Where can people listen to your podcast?
Yes, my podcast is just called Dream Out Loud, and you'll find that on iTunes, Spotify, Google Podcasts, or whatever the hell else other people
Yeah.
listen to podcasts on. So my podcast on my Instagram, the best way is to get me. Instagram is at Morgan T. Nelson.
Yeah, beautiful. Well, we're going to drop all the links below so everyone can reach out. If you have any questions, either comment below or reach out to Morgan via his social media as well. And I just want to say thank you so much because I really believe that this is so needed right now. And any way that I can support you, please let me know. But thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited. Thank you.
Thank you. So if you like this video, make sure you hit the like and subscribe button. If you've got any questions, drop them below. I am your host, Christine Innes, and thank you. Thank you so much to Morgan being here today. And remember to follow your passion. Love and light to you all.